Alright, I'm a horrible person. So I know I said I would do the other one, or this part, in a couple of minutes last time, but turns out it's been a couple of weeks. So, my apologies about that, and after I take a bite of my, pumpkins, excuse me, ew, that was gross, pumpkin stuff, I will get into the story. And also, if you want to follow me on, Instagram or, Tumblr or Wattpad, my my Instagram and Tumblr are Whispers in the Forest, no capital letters, no little underscores or anything, it's just that. And then my Wattpad is, Chicken Beats. Literally just that, Chicken Beats. And there you go. Alrighty, okay, let's begin this. Again, nothing. Something hard and cold begins to settle in his stomach. He curls his fingers into Denmark's sweater. Denmark? America appears beside him, a fork in his mouth. Step aside, little man, I've got this. He pops the utensil free of his lips and sets his can of string beans aside, licking his index finger a few times before he bends down and sticks it straight into Denmark's ear. Denmark's eyes snap open and he flies upright, smacking his palm over his ear. Dude, what the fuck? He furiously wipes the sleeve of his shirt against his face. What are you, 5? America laughs heartily and resumes eating his beans. Got you up, didn't it? He slaps Denmark's back, knocking him forward, and goes back to help Canada with his own breakfast. Get a move on, Sleeping Beauty. We gotta get going. Denmark glares at him and scrubs his wrist over his ear one last time. Dick, he coughs. Who the hell does that? Ugh, that is so gross. He drops his hand into his lap and sighs, an eyebrow rising when he catches the stricken look on Peter's face. What's the matter? Did he wake you up like that too? Peter stares at him. I kept trying to wake you up, he murmurs quietly, but you wouldn't. Oh. Denmark pulls the mask down around his neck, leaning down to peer at him. I was just having a good dream is all. He reaches out to muss Peter's hair. Sorry if I scared you. I'm not scared, I'm just... He trails off, frustrated. Worried or something, I don't know. Hey, I promised you, didn't I? Denmark grins and pats his back. I don't break promises, kiddo. Even Sweden can vouch for me on that, as much as I'm sure it pisses him off to do so. He catches Peter's chin and turns his face up to look him in the eye. You don't have to worry, okay? Now come on. I think Alfred's going to explode if we don't start getting ready soon. What? Okay. Peter snorts and starts to pull his coat on. I wish he would explode. Maybe then we could get some sleep. Denmark laughs. Yeah, but then we'd also have a plane full of exploded American. He snaps his mask back on and starts to lace his boots. And that's disgusting. America throws a pillow at them. Hey, I can hear you, you know. And I'll have you know my insides are just as awesome as my outsides. So even if I did explode, I'd still be just as cool as I am now. Peter and Denmark exchange deadpan glances and roll their eyes. So how is this going to work? Denmark asks after a moment. Matthew, are you just going to stay here? Yes, I'll be waiting here. Isn't that kind of risky? No less risky than if I were to go with you. He sits up and motions toward Alfred. Alfred. Wow. He's generally quick whenever he goes out. I'll be fine. Are you sure you don't want Alfred to stay with you? I mean, he can just show us on the map where the trading post is and we can find it ourselves. No can do. America pops on a pair of dirt-streaked goggles and starts to put on his backpack. I don't know how to find it on a map. I gotta just take you there. Maddie will be fine. We've done this lots of times. He turns to face them completely, hands on his hips. Are you ready yet? Peter looks up at Denmark and then back to America. I think so. Good, then let's go. He spins around and gives Canada a quick hug, pausing just long enough to run his hand down his matted hair. We'll be back soon. Matthew smiles. Stay safe. You too. A quick salute and America moves to push the plane's door open a sliver, slow and cautious, peeking out and waiting, then shoving it up all the way and pulling himself out. Come on, he calls in. Everything out here's fine. Denmark pats Peter's shoulder. I'm gonna go ahead and go out first this time, okay? I'll help you in a minute. Okay. While Denmark hauls his way free of the plane, Peter sidesteps to crouch down next to Canada, tapping his arm to get his attention. You really can't see anything? Not a thing. Does it hurt? Canada tilts his head slightly. Being blind? Yes. Well, no. Everything, I mean. Like, breathing. Does it hurt? Canada's smile is small and just as empty as his eyes. Worse than anything. From above them, Peter can hear Denmark coughing and it makes his stomach twist. True to his word, Alfred is able to lead them straight to the trading post in the middle of the city. Unlike the last one they stopped at, this one is indoors, placed in the gutted remains of a blackened community center. It has no roof and the windows are all shattered, but there are enough streaky footprints in the ash that blankets the floor that Peter can still see the faded yellow and black lines that run along the sides. A basketball court, he reasons. If he squints through the dim light, he can even see the frayed remains of a net still mounted to a crooked bar above the vendors. He momentarily entertains the idea of crumpling a piece of paper to throw through it, but shakes the thought free almost as quickly as it comes. It's a childish want, and they don't have time for it. Denmark suggests that they split up and meet back at the front doors in half an hour, taking Peter by the hand and leading him to the first row of stalls while Alfred flounces off to try and find something to carry Canada in. Though this one is bigger, much of what is being offered is exactly the same, just in larger quantities. He can see stacks of cardboard boxes filled to the brim with newspapers and bits of plastic and more stuffed animals that he can keep track of. Oof. Like the first, the whole structure reeks of humanity, and it only gets worse as they get closer to the center line of peddlers, an overwhelming stench of mud and sweat washing over them so thickly that Peter actually gags and pulls his scarf up around his nose. They stop in front of two young women seated in rusty lawn chairs. They have a blanket spread out beneath them, several dented cans, and a bin full of passports arranged neatly by their feet. At first, Peter thinks that they are just going to move on to the next stall. The people just a few steps further have bottles of water and ration packs, all of which are in much better condition than what the women have. But Denmark stops directly in front of them and snatches up one of the cans. It's the only one that has a label still, a dingy light blue with red letters. Where did you get this? He demands and shoves the can at them. The two women exchanged worried glances and explained to him that they brought it with them. They both have thick accents, almost a stutter, and at once Denmark's eyes widen as he begins to speak to them in a rapid language that Peter does not understand. It's not Danish. It's not Danish. He knows that much. It's too fluid and pretty, musical even, spoken from the tip of his tongue, unlike the hard curses that he's taught Peter to choke through. There is a pause in the conversation, and they hand Denmark the box full of passports, showing him the crest on the front. Before Peter can see what the writing says, it is dropped back into the box, and Denmark is grabbing the hands of the one who showed him, kneeling low and pressing his forehead to her wrist. "Thank you," he says quietly. He lets go of the startled brunette and pulls a blanket from their pack, pushing it into her arms in exchange for the cans, which he places back in the bag, all except one. "Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you." Again, he slips into that fluttery language and blathers his way through what Peter assumes to be more expressions of gratitude for several more seconds, eyes shining when he straightens up and takes Peter's hand again. He leads him out of the stalls and to the wall too quick for Peter to get a word in, and promptly collapses onto the floor once they are out of the way, pulling the mask down and laughing into his hands. Alarmed, Peter drops down beside him and tentatively reaches out to take the can with the blue label. The words are written in a thin, swoopy font, pale red and bright against the label. It's torn on one side, but Peter couldn't make heads or tails of it, even if it weren't. He looks up at Denmark, who still has his face in his hands, his shoulders shaking with barely subdued chuckles. He taps his shoulder, blinking in surprise when Denmark lifts his head and meets his stare with wet, red eyes, and the biggest smile Peter has ever seen him wear since finding Netherlands. "What's so funny?" he asks and holds up the can. "What is this?" Denmark laughs again and gingerly takes the can from him, turning it around to face him and pointing at the label. Oh my god, I don't know how to pronounce this. Grauenmettisuppe, he says, voice just barely wavering. Grauenmettisuppe, fucking vegetable soup. It's vegetable soup. Peter stares at him. He knows for a fact that they have at least 2 cans of vegetable soup of their own left. What's so funny about it? Nothing's funny. I just never thought I'd be so goddamn happy to see this crappy soup again. He waves the can, grinning. There's only one place I've ever seen this before. Where? Discount grocery stores. He breaks out in another watery grin, and he wipes his eyes on the back of his coat sleeve. Discount grocery stores in Iceland. It costs 100 kroner for 1 can, and it tastes like salty piss, and it's from fucking Iceland. It takes a moment for this to sink in, but as soon as it does, Peter's face bursts into a wide smile, and he grabs the can back, spinning it in his palm and running his fingers over the label. "So you were talking in Icelandic back there? Those ladies are from Iceland?" Denmark nods enthusiastically. "They said the north side of the island is in ruins, but Reykjavik, I don't know, is still standing. A German ferry picked them up a few months ago and brought them here. They said there's another boat that came a few times." He grabs Peter's shoulders and shakes him happily. "A boat flying in a Norwegian flag." Peter drops the cans and throws his arms around Denmark's neck, laughing hysterically when the star-struck Dane stands up and swings him around, clutching him tightly and laughing right along with him, completely oblivious to the confused stares being shot their way by passers-by. By the time they manage to calm down, Denmark's face is flushed, and he's still laughing, hard enough that he has to pull the mask back on before he can pull Peter back into the crowd. "Come on," he calls. "Let's hurry so we can finish and get going." Peter agrees heartily and scurries after him. They're able to haggle themselves enough food to last a week, and America finds a shopping cart with a rickety wheel. But as they leave, Peter knows they've already found their most important item at the market. They've found a new sliver of hope. Boom, we're done with this chapter. And now we're on chapter 14. Bro, I'm gonna get, so sad. So very sad. while reading this. Why won't it go to the next chapter? Ooh. Hello? Okay. Well, I'm not sure when, the next, chapter will be out, but, well, not chapter, because all the chapters are already done, and basically everyone in this fandom knows what Gutters is. But, yeah, let's see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 chapters left. Yo, we're over halfway done. Alrighty. Well, have a good day or night, and I'll try and get the next one out as soon as I can. Alrighty, bye-bye.